All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking some time today to join us here at Hostfully with our partner, Ximplifi. We've got Michael and Britt on the call joining us from Ximplifi, and my colleague, Marcos, who's going to be in the background emceeing. But anyways, Michael, Britt, thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no, our pleasure. I think a lot of people are going to benefit from this today. I know myself, personally, when I think of accounting and anything numbers oriented, it looks like I saw a ghost. So I think a lot of people will probably get quite a bit of value out of this today. But anyways, we're going to give folks another minute or so to join. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and publish a couple generic polls. If you've joined us before, you might have done these polls already. But feel free to fill those out in the meantime. Again, we're just going to give folks a minute or so here to hop in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So we'll just give this just a moment here. So you should see those polls popping up onto your screen there. And then I also just want to point out, if anyone comes up with questions along the way, we're going to carve out some time at the end of this for a Q&A. But if those questions are popping to mind while we're touching on a specific topic, you've got the questions tab in the bottom right-hand corner, so don't hesitate to pop those in there. We'll try to get all those questions answered along the way here as we go. All right, I got to fill out these poll questions myself here, so I'll just get these going. All right. And it looks like we've got quite a few folks who have trickled in. We might have some people joining here along the way, but we might as well go ahead and jump right into things. So, like I said, we're joined today by Ximplifi and their VR platform as well. They're going to touch on kind of everything that they've got going on their side of things, but the kind of topic today is the art and science of short-term rental accounting. And to begin, again, I just want to introduce everyone on the call. My name is Colter Robinson, Director of Business Development here at Hostfully. I'm joined by my colleague, Marcos. And then on the Ximplifi side, we've got Britt and we've got Michael as well. They're going to do a little bit more of an introduction here in a moment. But real briefly, for those of you who are not Hostfully users, I just want to give you a little bit of background on who Hostfully is, just so we can get those questions answered. But Hostfully, we're a vacation rental management software. We provide two products here, a property management platform and digital guidebook platform. These do integrate with one another, but they can be standalone products as well. Our property management platform, that's really your full tip to tail solution for managing your day-to-day operations, channel management, integrating with all the major OTAs, direct booking capabilities, automated messaging, payment processing. So all of that just built into the property management platform. It's kind of your centralized operating system for your business. And then the digital guidebooks. These are designed to enhance the guest experience. These are basically the guest experience platform, replacing the traditional, maybe physical guidebooks that used to be left in the properties, or in some cases still are left in the properties. These are optimized to help cut down on guest communications. You can upsell products within these guidebooks. And ultimately, we just want to enhance that guest experience, save them time as the guest, save you time as the host, but optimize what exactly they're doing during their stay. And the property management platform, shout out to our team. We've won the Shorties Award a couple of years here. So shout out to Terry White at the bottom of the screen there. We always love to give some love to those that award. And then I just want to point out as well, all of our integrated partners, Ximplifi being one of those integrated partners in accounting. So this is just another aspect of our property management platform, building out an optimized tech stack so you can really streamline your day-to-day operations to the fullest extent. We've got a full list of all these integrations on our website. So if you do want to go to hostfully.com, feel free to go ahead and check those out. We've got more details on all of these integrations. And then the Hostfully guidebooks, like I mentioned, this is the guest experience platform. All you do is send a link to the guests. They're going to have access to this digital guidebook. They also have QR code functionalities, so you can get guests to interact with them when they get into your property as well. They can be accessed across any device. But like you can see there, one of our users, Erica, she said she was totally blown away by the guidebook platform. It saved her a ton of time, and it's way more professional and modern than a Word document, PDF file, or in a lot of cases, just a physical welcome book that you might leave in there. Very interactive platform. So those are kind of the gist of our two main products here at Hostfully. Of course, we're all here today for Ximplifi, so I'm about to hand it off to them. The final thing I want to point out is we've got a ton of reports and webinars on our website, hostfully.com. So if any of you want to refer back to any of these webinars we've done in the past or any reports, we actually just released an industry report yesterday. So feel free to go check that out. It's kind of giving a rundown of the state of hospitality and short-term rentals for this year. So go to hostfully.com, give that a look. With that being said, I'm going to hand it off to Britt and to Michael here. You guys feel free to take away the show, and we're going to be here in the background if anything pops up.
Great.
Thank you, Walter.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I'll take over the share here.
Yeah, sounds good. Feel free to share your screen, Michael, and we'll let you know when that pops up.
Okay.
All righty. Well, I'll kick things off here. Just a quick thank you again, though, for everyone who is joining us today. We are excited to have you. I'm Britt, the Director of Business Development at Ximplifi. And before we jump into the demo, we thought it'd be helpful to give you a quick overview on Ximplifi, our services, our methodology, and just really help paint a picture about how things work. So Ximplifi is a technology-enabled accounting firm that specializes in the hospitality and real estate industries. Our primary focus is short-term rental accounting. So we understand that accounting in this industry is challenging, and our mission is really to improve our clients' lives and help them achieve financial success. So Ximplifi offers accounting services and initially developed VR platform in a joint venture to help automate short-term rental accounting for our accounting services team. So VR platform is an accounting automation plugin that translates financial data from property management systems like Hostfully, channels, and merchant processors into accounting systems. So VR platform is still used by our accounting services team today, but now customers are able to use the software internally as well without our service if they'd like to do that. So to give you a little bit more information on our accounting services, we really look to become a partner of our accounting services clients and an extension of their business. We offer 3 different levels and can help with trust accounting, bank and credit card reconciliations, owner statement creation, and more. If you want to go to the next slide, Michael. So Ximplifi has been providing accounting services in this industry now for 5 years, over 5 years. And as you all know, it can be messy. Financial data comes from many different sources. Management commissions, channel commissions, merchant processor fees, they can be complex, and everyone does things a little bit differently. We have worked with many different property management systems, some of which have certain accounting functionality built in, but we found it very difficult to manage accounting in multiple places since you're oftentimes going to have expenses occurring outside of reservations, and you still are going to always need a place to do your management company financials. So we developed our platform and partnered with best-in-class solutions like Hostfully so that we can pull all financial data into one single source of truth and do trust accounting and management company accounting in a true accounting system. So I'm going to go ahead now and turn it over to you, Michael, to discuss some trust accounting basics and show you how VR platform works.
Thanks, Britt. I do see that there's some questions popping up in the queue. So this presentation that I'm going to give probably takes about 20 minutes. And then the intent is that we get to all your questions at the end, and hopefully we'll have enough time to answer all of them. I think we will. But as you guys are already aware, typically some of the complications with accounting for short-term rentals is that I get money today, but there's not necessarily an event happening with those dollars until sometime in the future. So just a little illustration that we have here today: you get an advance deposit, you get a $1,200 balance due later. Those are all treated differently depending on the makeup of those funds. So we're going to talk about a bit about that in a demo, but just really want to kind of understand that what we're talking about here is a true accrual accounting system that was designed by accountants to make short-term rental accounting easier and really to simplify it as much as possible. So all right. As Britt kind of alluded to, VR platform exists think of it as a bridge. You have your property management system, your merchant processors. They connect to VR platform along with your accounting system and other ancillary apps there. And we take all that data, we translate it, post it into the accounting system, and then we ultimately pull data back out of the accounting system and marry it with information from the property management system to generate our own owner statements. We have a standalone owner portal that, because revenue and expenses exist and are reconciled in the accounting system, we use that information to generate our owner statements. Okay. So I've got a demo environment up here, and this is our platform, VR platform. This is what it looks like. And when you log in here, one of the first places you're going to go is you're going to go to our connections section, and you're going to connect your various tools, your Stripe. This particular environment is connected to booking automation, but we work with a lot of different property management systems. QuickBooks, Airbnb. You can have as many Airbnb and Stripe connections as you need. And what's going to happen is once that data starts flowing into our system, it's going to bring in payments. It's going to bring in reservations, and it's going to also bring in listing and data from the property management system. It works the same no matter what property management system you use. We've been connected with Hostfully now for going on 2 years, and they're a great partner. We've had nothing but great experience with them. And so, whether you're on, but just to clarify, whether you're on Hostfully, whether you're on any other platform, our integration and what we do is going to work exactly the same. So as you can see here, if I pull up a payment, I've got reservation details that make up that payment. And I've got a timeline here of transactions that have posted into QuickBooks. Everything is connected in here. So payments and reservations kind of go hand in hand. So if I click into one of these reservations, it's going to switch over and show me the details of that particular stay, what happened, and also the payments related to that transaction. I've got all my invoice details down here. And what we're essentially doing is we are taking this data and creating an invoice in QuickBooks, which I'll show you here really quickly. So here's an example. I have an Airbnb invoice. As you can see here, we create a customer record for each guest, and we use a combination of the channel, the guest name, and the reservation ID. We also tag the invoice to the reservation ID, as well as the payment that gets posted against this invoice. So you have a complete audit trail in QuickBooks where if you need to find anything related to this stay, you can search by the guest name or the reservation ID and locate it. We take and configure your environment based on your needs. So this particular environment, we have resort fee, cleaning fee, the actual accommodation fare, and a host fee. And these are all pointing to products and services in QuickBooks that dictate where those transactions post in the accounting system. We associate a class for the listing itself, and that is what drives this activity to be aggregated for a specific listing or property. And that ultimately pushes it out to our owner statements at the end of the day. So every single transaction that comes through via our platform, we are tagging to a listing and a guest, and then we are ultimately translating that into the relevant accounting transactions in QuickBooks. When I get done with a stay, when a reservation is complete, what I expect to see is a total invoice here that is exactly equal to what I was sent as a payout, and then payments totaling that exact same amount. So my balance due should be 0 at the end of each of my stays. As you can see here, QuickBooks posts a payment for this invoice. And rather than post this directly to cash, we use a clearing account. And what that does is, so every Airbnb payment we receive, we post into our clearing account. Then with the related payments that get deposited into the bank, we create a journal entry automatically so that we get the guest and reservation detail broken out by line item. And I'll show you that here as well in just a second.
And Michael, I don't want to throw you off of your flow here. We're getting a couple of questions popping up that we might just want to touch on before we get too deep here into the presentation. one of the questions, one of the first ones here, touching on QuickBooks, which versions of QuickBooks do you work with is the question there.
Yeah, QuickBooks Online. And you typically have to have a Plus subscription, or I think it's Pro. It's the one that enables classes. I think it's around $80 a month, unless you get some sort of promotion. But that is the minimum requirement for the integration to work, because we are tagging every transaction to a class.
Perfect. And then Maria's asked, is the pull of data from Hostfully retroactive to start date on Airbnb? And Hostfully, and then parentheses for me, May 2023. Do you know if that's a retroactive poll from the start date?
I'm not understanding the question. Are you asking about posting data before you go live with the software?
And maybe Maria, if you... Yeah, go for it, Michael.
Yeah, if you're looking to, if you say you go live with us December 1st of 2023, but you want to push data back all the way starting May 1st, that's not a problem. We do charge for that typically, additional subscription costs for those months that you want to push, but you can use this to push data over into QuickBooks for as long as there's data in VR platform. So.
Perfect.
Okay.
And then one more here, and we'll let you get to some of these other questions later on. Someone said, I see Airbnb, but what sort of Verbo integration is there?
Yeah, great question. So Airbnb and Stripe are the two payment processors that we connect with directly. If you're using something else like vacation rent payment, or maybe Limbrook, one of these other third-party payment providers for non-Airbnb bookings, you can still use our product, but it will not automatically create these deposit journal entries for you. So you will have to manually match the various reservations to a deposit when they come into your bank feed in QuickBooks. A little bit more manual, but still can use the integration. The invoices will get captured automatically. So because everything's going through the property management system, and that's what we're using to generate our invoice, it will pick up any booking channel that's flowing through the property management system. As you can see here, this is an example of a deposit journal entry. So we're depositing $13,000 worth of cash, and then I've got 5 bookings that make up that deposit. They're all coming out of my clearing account. And so what this looks like is I get a nice in and out in my clearing account with payment going in, deposit pulling that money out, and I'm left with cash in the bank at the end of the day, and my owner activity on my financial statements where it needs to go. Just to kind of highlight really quick the actual accounting method that we use here, we use a modified approach where we're taking all of our owner-related items straight to our balance sheet. And this really resembles a true trust accounting approach. So every dollar that comes into my trust account typically is going somewhere else, right? It's going to go to a future reservation. Maybe it's dollars that have been earned for the property manager. It's a deposit for a security deposit. Maybe it's taxes, or maybe it's something that I need to pay out to the owner. But really, the trust doesn't make profit. So we take all of our trust activity. It hits the balance sheet. This section of our balance sheet is also linked to our owner statements. So in a nutshell, this basically is where our our owner statement activity is collected and stored, and then it ultimately feeds into our owner statements. But what this does also is if I run a profit and loss report in QuickBooks by class, I'm only going to see the activity that is related to my property management company. So I can get a nice breakout here by property, and it's only going to show my business's P&L. Okay. A lot of people are used to seeing profit and losses for maybe their owner activity, but you'll see this huge rents number and then your owner payouts going out. We run all that through the balance sheet and the owner statements, and you're left with just your management company activity on the P&L. Okay. Jumping back over to the platform real quick, we have custom fees that you can set up. This is how we book things like commissions. This is how we capture Stripe fees and line them up with the reservation, as well as Verbo channel fees. You can also do fixed fees if they're based on the reservation themselves. And So you have the capability here to come in and set something. I want to set a percentage or a flat fee, and it's going to be based on each booking or bookings from specific channels. You can set all that up. You can also do specific configurations in here by listings, which I haven't touched on yet, so I'll jump over there really quick. You have the capability here to turn off any automations at the listing level, at the listing group level. We just launched listing groups not too long ago, and that allows you to set configurations by group of listings. So this is really applicable if you have arbitrage or maybe, properties that are owned by the management company ownership. So it's maybe different LLCs, different treatment for properties. You can set those configurations up by group rather than setting an exception for every single listing that's contained in this batch. Okay. Our main kind of meat and potatoes automations consists of posting invoices into QuickBooks, posting the payments, and the deposit journal entries. Those are the 3 transactions that I mentioned previously. And then custom fees just kind of layers over that. And we are actually recording transactions in QuickBooks being driven by a reservation, but we're creating a whole separate transaction to capture commissions, channel fees, Stripe fees, etc. And then you can also determine, in an example like a Stripe fee or one of these others, we have a pre-deduct field here. So if this is something that's going to reduce my commissionable revenue, I can make that election here. You can also set different rates by property. Again, if I want to set a default of 20%, but I've got a couple properties that are at 25, that's no problem. All this is completely flexible and really easy to work with once you figure out how it functions and how it works. Just real quick, I want to touch on owners. So as you can see here, we have an owner section in our platform. This is where you assign all the relevant listings to that owner. And this is where, you can break out ownership percentages. You can see previous statements that have been posted for that owner. And then you can also access the owner portal, which I'll show you in a second. When it's all said and done, we're kind of accountants. So we started with how can we keep books and do it well and provide a good service. These automations really resulted from us trying to work more efficiently. And then we saw the value in showing other people that, hey, you can actually use this tool as well. But the number one complaint that people had when they came to us was, how can I make my owner statements easier, more accurate, more timely? And so about 14 months ago, we launched an owner portal. It's been really, really a positive thing for our clients. We get a lot of good feedback on it. And what this does is it allows us to just come in and generate statements really with the push of a button. The one thing I can't stress enough here is that this is all coming from the accounting system. So we're taking, reservation information and pulling it in from the property management system. But really the accounting system, because we're automating all the reservations and related transactions, it's the only place where the revenue lives and the expenses live, okay? So I didn't touch on this yet, but based on how we capture our expenses in the accounting system, that can drive it straight to the owner statement. So there's no more of this having to manually carry expenses to my owner statement at the end of the month and things get missed. If you're doing the accounting in QuickBooks and you're staying on top of things, then ultimately your owner statements are going to be accurate and they're going to be easier to prepare. As you can see here, you've got guest names, reservation IDs, stay dates, and then this section here, the actual numbers section of the top, revenue, is completely customizable. You can have one column here, you can have 20 columns here, whatever you want, and these buckets are all customizable as well. We are actually taking general ledger accounts and linking them to these categories on the owner statements. And so what that does is it essentially makes sure that everything from the accounting system is flowing right where we want it to. All right. If I click into one of these, I can see source data from the accounting system that's posting in, so I can kind of make sense of what's making up these numbers. And then we also have custom fields, custom calculations that you can do here. So I've got a commission recalc field. So instead of me taking my 6,400 and dividing my commission by 6,400 manually on a calculator, I've got a check over here on the right. Oh, and guess what? The owner's not going to see this. This is just for my benefit as the accountant or the property manager. So you can also run things like ADR. We're able to pull in a lot of different things from the property management system as well as our accounting system. So all of these fields that you see here, we have the capability to add to change. By default, you're going to get your guest information up here. But anything that's financial related, anything that's a formula, we have a lot of flexibility with what we can do here. Okay, you'll notice that if I put a formula in here, I can link things like guests. I think it's number of guests. Yeah, reservation guests. So this is something we're pulling from the property management system. I can pull things in like nights. And then anything that I've got on this owner statement anywhere else, I can also link into it. One last thing that I think is really important to highlight that I kind of glossed over is with our automations for Airbnb, we're pulling data directly from the payout information in Airbnb. So we automatically grab things like resolutions, Stripe refunds, and that sort of thing. And that gets picked up through our deposit automation entry. So there is still some review that typically people have to do because resolutions and refunds can be treated a lot of different ways, but that does get picked up automatically through our deposit entry. One other thing that I just want to demonstrate really quick here, and then we'll kind of move on to the end in the Q&A. So as far as expenses go, when you have expenses in your accounting system, you typically have a memo or a description. That information is going to flow right into the owner statement. This particular one, let's say it's in draft status or in review and I'm taking a look at it. I don't like this bank language in here, so I just want to change it to, laundry. I can just edit that on the fly without having to go into QuickBooks, change the description, and it's going to overwrite that description for me. Or if I want to add more context for the owner, I can. By default, we're going to give them the detail, the general ledger detail, so they see each charge, as opposed to bucketing things by, supplies expense was $500, but it was made up of 10 different items, and now they're going to ask you for the support for those items, and you've got to provide it. So by default, we're being transparent. You can always make this less transparent if you want. If you just want to show a sum total like this, you can. There's a lot of different ways you can set this up to meet your needs. Okay. This is not a static statement by any means. One other new feature that we just added, it's going live here in the next month, is that you can actually set up different owner statement templates that you can use for different owners. So if you have an owner that gets cleaning fees paid to them, or they want to see it on their owner statement, but other owners don't, you can actually build different templates and assign them to your listing group or particular listings. Okay. The last thing related to the owner statements, trying to be cognizant of time here, is, the owner's experience, right? So if I want to see, what my owner sees when they're looking in VR platform, there's this feature called owner impersonation. So this is actually, you'll notice that the menus changed slightly, but this is what an owner is going to look at when they log into their portal. They're able to see, my listings. If you have reservations turned on for them to see, they will be able to see them. Most property managers don't like that feature because they get a little too much information. But this is a really helpful tool that we built for 1099 reporting, year-end reporting, but also just, them having information at their fingertips. If I want to run consolidated statement to see all my properties, I can, multiple months or a quarter, I can set all that here. And any published statement, I'm loving the emojis, guys. That's great. Any published statement that shows up, it's going to feed into the owner's platform. So the way this typically works is when we're working in VR platform and we've published an owner statement, the owner gets an email and is notified that, this is available for you to look at. The other piece that is, I think, really critical for you guys actually working in here is that when I move one of these statements to published and billed, this is going to create a bill in QuickBooks for my owner that I can then turn around and convert into a payment easily. Whether I'm paying via ACH or Venmo or through QuickBooks, the bill is already there. So when that payment hits my bank feed, QuickBooks is going to recognize and go, hey, I think you paid this bill. Do you want to match it? And what it does is we default our bill to the last day of the month. So if you think about it, I'm closing the loop on that month's activity because I'm zeroing out the balance that has been earned for that owner. And so each month when we get done and finish our owner statements and payouts, we should have a zero balance in that owner liability section of our balance sheet. And that gives us the confidence that, one, we've reconciled everything, we paid the owner what they should have been paid, and now instead of me being concerned about rolling something forward, I know I've gotten everything captured that needs to be. And when I look at this month's statement, I can see, okay, I've got a beginning balance of zero. I know that everything's good to go. All right. Last but not least, we are rolling out a feature in Q1 of 2024 so that when I get done and I want to complete this owner statement, I will have the owner's payment information in here and I can just trigger a payment straight from VR platform. That is something that we're focused on, that we're really excited about. Again, trying to make the owner statement process as easy and streamlined as possible. So I believe that's everything I wanted to cover. I'm sure I maybe left out a few minor things, but I want to get to the questions because I see there's almost 30 of them. So I'll leave this open so we can maybe look at some things, but let's go ahead and start tackling those questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, for that deep dive kind of demo of the platform there. And Britt, I see you've been answering some of these questions on the go as well. So I'll let both of you kind of take it away with these questions.
Sure.
And do what you need to do here.
I'm just going to go in order if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So can you roll over expenses to a future month? The answer is yes. So as you saw here, if for some reason, and let me just go back here. If for some reason I decide I don't want to pay, out the owner the entire amount that was due, maybe I keep a reserve on hand or something like that, you can always come in here and pay less than what the owner technically has earned. So that is a feature. This balance will roll forward to the next month. If you're talking about seasonal rentals where you have there's not a lot of revenue for 3 months, and so you essentially are rolling forward a negative balance, you can also do that. But keep in mind that it's kind of a little risky because you are you're incurring expenses likely out of your trust, and you don't have revenue to cover those expenses, which is a no-no in a lot of places. So a lot of times what people will do is bill owners each month to bring this balance to zero. But yes, if you need to roll forward expenses or anything else, you can do that. That's not a problem. How does it work when paying a creditor, such as a tradesperson? Plumbing bill, can the owner see the invoice, and how do we pay the plumber? So yeah, there's a couple different ways you can do this. Because this is driven off of QuickBooks, if I have a bill in here, and I can just actually show you this really quick. If I'm in my bank feed and I've paid cash, then I can just find an expense. So I'm just going to pretend that this was some sort of HVAC repair or something like that. If I put this to the owner expenses section of my accounting chart of accounts, and I select the location as trust, the class is whatever listing it's applicable to, I can come in and change and make this whatever I want it to be. So this is HVAC replacement, and they're going to be able to see which account this is for. They're going to be able to see the memo and ultimately the amount and the date. So they have plenty of information that they need to be able to see, what that expense is for. If for some reason they still want to see an invoice, we do have a feature that, you can upload files, monthly PDF files of your expenses if you want. I highly discourage this for most people, but that is an option as well. What does Ximplifi cost? We have a website. If you go to, I'll let Britt answer that one because that's kind of more her swim lane. Matt says, when there is a cancellation, Stripe hostfully fees are still the responsibility of the owner and are not refunded. How are these fees coded in QBO? Yeah, that's something I've seen a few times here and there. So it depends. It depends on how you treat those when that expense happens. Typically, what I see the most people want the Stripe fees to hit the owner statement in the same month as the actual reservation. So if that's the case, then if there's a refund that gets triggered, you're out those Stripe fees. As the property manager, it's your decision on whether or not you, keep the owner bearing that responsibility, or if you're going to eat that cost. It really depends on your agreement with them. But depending on how you want to treat it, it can be treated either way. It can be an operating expense to the property manager, or it can be something you bill back to the owner in the month of the reservation. And that applies too for cancellations as well. If you still want to recoup that cost from the owner because you incurred it, you can do that. Okay, Maria says, do you have a column choice for average ADR for the month? Yes, so that is what I was demonstrating here with these custom fees. So if you want to calculate your ADR for each stay, you can do that. As far as, I think what you're asking is about the ADR for the entire month. I'm not sure, I haven't played around with that yet. That would just be a total down here at the bottom or an average. I'm pretty sure you could do that, but I've never actually used that. Usually when I'm looking at ADR, it's based on each reservation itself, and then it's giving me some sort of summary at the bottom. And typically, whatever formula I put here, it's going to apply against the totals as well. So I think that will work if you're looking for the entire month. Coding and mapping ancillary services. Matt, I'm not sure what ancillary service you're referring to there. Maybe if you could give me a little more context, I can answer that. If you have property in Europe, can Ximplifi provide accounting services? Ximplifi typically provides accounting services for US-based companies only, but we are actively recruiting accounting partners, especially in other countries, so that if someone desires to use via our platform, we do try to have an accountant or bookkeeper that they can work with to still be able to get the best value for what they're doing. You can use via our platform without an accountant. I do find that for most people, unless you have your own in-house accounting team, it is a bit of a heavy lift if you're trying to run your business and do all the accounting. But some people do it and have success with it. It just really depends on your particular situation. If our PM LLC is not in a trust, does this work the way we set up PM entity? Maria Miller asked about having if you're not using a trust. You can use this tool however you need to. If you don't have any externally owned properties, if they're all owned in-house, you can absolutely use this. It's going to actually simplify things quite a bit because you're not having to do trust accounting. All right. How are return security deposits mapped to the appropriate guest? Moreover, how are security deposits which are retained due to guest damage coded in the accounting system? Good question, Matt. So this is actually one that it's a little tricky because Stripe does not include the guest information and the purpose of the deposit. They include, I'm sorry, I take that back. They include the guest info or the reservation ID, but they don't include the purpose of the deposit refund. So it just shows up as a refund. And then typically you're going to have to go in and tell QuickBooks what it was for. So it was a refund of a security deposit. It's going to have the customer information or the guest information attached to it, but Stripe does not break out any differently a refund versus a security deposit refund. What I've recommended to a lot of people, and you'll see I've seen a lot more businesses going this direction, is you move away from security deposits and move more to, a damage waiver type of arrangement where your guests are paying a small fee. It's non-refundable. And it actually, in a lot of cases, can actually become an additional revenue source for the property manager because, how often are you really having damage claims on security deposits? Right. So it's there for the peace of mind, but as long as you have a mechanism that you can deploy, I've seen a lot of success with these damage insurance policies and stuff like that, where you're not having to hold on to people's money. They like it because they don't have to pay a big deposit to book the place. And so it's a win-win for everybody a lot of times. Ashley asks, and this is all automated. Yes, this is all automated. There is still accounting that has to be done, which we will kind of touch base on here right at the end when we go through our year-end accounting checklist. But Ximplifi has various tools out here about how to do the accounting. Just to give you a ballpark, we kind of use this because this is for what our team goes by, but you can plan on about an hour a month per listing for each to do all the accounting. So reconcile your accounts, your trust, issue your owner statements. That's what it should take if you really have all cylinders firing. You're operating efficiently. Where I find most property managers get bogged down is expense capture and processing, making sure that they actually know that they've been paid for their stays. So this can help with all of that. And there's other tools out there, where you can capture expenses a little bit more seamlessly. And most of those tools already integrate with QuickBooks. I already answered the question about Verbo, so I'm going to mark that as done. Is the poll of data from Hostfully retroactive to the start date on ABB and Hostfully for me, May 2023? So I think I kind of answered this, but any data that is in your system, whether it's Hostfully, Airbnb, we can pull into VR platform. So if you go live 6 months after you go live with Hostfully, we can pull that data into VR platform and post it into QuickBooks. Which versions of QuickBooks do you work with? We talked about that. Where can I find the 2000? I'll let you guys answer the Marcos's question about the industry report. Keep that there. Can you start with a definition of trust accounting? Okay. So I'm going to go back to kind of what I said earlier, right? Every dollar that comes into my trust. So if I get a booking payment, okay, and I'm managing a property for a third-party owner, I have a fiduciary duty to make sure that that owner gets every single dollar that they're entitled to per our agreement. And your agreement is between you and your owners, right? So there's a lot of variables at play here, and it depends on your state, trust accounting rules. They're all a little different. We find that as a best practice, if you are managing properties for their outside ownership, not your own properties, then you need to have an account that those dollars go into that is not part of not sharing room with your operating dollars. It needs to be a separate account. The deposits come in there. You only spend dollars for a specific purpose out of that account. Typically, money shouldn't leave that account unless you're reimbursing your operations for expenses that you incurred or earned. So like, for example, cleaning fees, you get cleaning fees to pay the housekeepers, or your commission. Those are valid items. If you're just pulling money out of your trust account to fund operations, it's a big no-no and you can get into a lot of trouble. So trust accounting is keeping an account of really other people's money, and you have a fiduciary duty to make sure they get every dollar that they're entitled to, and ultimately that payments for future stays 6 months from now are still there in that account to apply against that stay and pay the owner when that person arrives. Okay, I hope that's helpful. And another trust accounting. There we go. I think I got through them all. If there's any I missed, yes. Okay, I see a couple back up at the top. Can expenses be backdated to actual date of services, repairs occurred, or materials received? POs are not required for us. You can take a bill that's received in a subsequent month and enter it on the last day of the month that the services were incurred. as long as you haven't issued your owner statements to close your books yet. I mean, that's true accrual accounting. So, there's plenty of people out there that are using maybe Breezeway to manage POs or other plugins that work with Hostfully. But most property managers we work with, unless you're managing, upwards towards 60 and above properties, like you almost don't even really need something like that. A lot of it can be done, just with a good AP process. Can you set up to split the cost of the CC fee? Yes. So if you want to split, I'm assuming you're talking about merchant fees for maybe Stripe or something like that. That is doable. We actually can use our custom fee automation, and anything can be split that's driven off of a reservation. So yes, that is possible. Ancillary items, late checkouts, early check-ins, etc. Okay, yeah. So if you are using things like Airbnb resolutions for early check-ins and late checkouts, those will get picked up, but Airbnb does not. What they communicate through API is pretty much the same, whether it's a late check-in fee, a pet fee, early check-in. So you still will have to go in and modify the account that it needs to go to if you're breaking it out separately. If you're just lumping all your resolutions together, it's no problem. But when it comes through your deposit journal entry, you can go through and modify it and tell it, I want this to go, this is commissionable, this is not. So, this is how I want it to be treated. In the future, one thing that I've requested and is being built out is a resolution center in VR platform, so that when you log in here, there'll be some sort of flag that says, hey, you have 5 resolutions to address. And you're actually going to go in and tell it, this is a pet fee, this is, an early check-in fee. And based on what parameters you have set, it's commissionable, it's not commissionable, it goes to the PM or goes to the owner. It's going to post that into QuickBooks the way that you want it to, so that there's less of this, review on the back end and making sure that things are done correctly. What platform do you use for damage waivers in lieu of security deposits? That's a great question, Jen. I actually don't know. I don't know the name of the company that most people are using. I just see the damage waiver line items on the invoices. I'm sure that Coulter and the Hostfully team could probably recommend some to you.
Yeah, I'll chime in just real quick on that, Michael. We've got direct integrations with Safely, Superhog, and InsuraGuest, and I'll type those out under that question as well. But those are the 3 that we see with our Hostfully users, and those are kind of the stereotypical ones here in the industry. There's some other like Proper, Generali, but with Hostfully, it's Superhog, InsuraGuest, and Safely.
Yeah.
And adding something to that. Nowadays, last message I saw was that Safely was requiring a minimum of 10 listings for like the insurance. So if you have like more than 10 listings, Safely also it's gonna be a good fit there.
Cool. Thanks for chiming in. Wow, I think we got through them all, and there's 12 minutes to spare. So if there's anything else that you guys want to bring up, I'm happy to stay on and answer additional questions.
And let me jump in real quickly, Michael, to answer the pricing question for Ximplifi. We offer, as I mentioned in the beginning, multiple levels of accounting service and also support a couple different accounting systems. It really depends on the number of listings you're managing and what level of service and support you're interested in. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, I would be more than happy to put together a quote for you. It's just Brit@Ximplifi.com. So I'll reply to your message with my email address.
Awesome. And then you guys, I know one question that I've gotten doing demos, and I'm always going through our tech stack and offering insights into integrated partners. One question I got is how long it stereotypically is to onboard with Ximplifi. Any feedback there?
So just to differentiate, so we have VR platform, which is our software. We have Ximplifi, which provides accounting services. So if you're onboarding with Ximplifi, typically you're going to go through onboarding one-on-one with a staff member. They're going to meet with you, set up your environment in VR platform, because we're very closely intertwined. And you can be live. Typically, we set go lives on the first of the month, so you get a full month of accounting done, and so you will issue owner statements that following month for the first time using Ximplifi services. Britt can speak to lead times and stuff like that. I think we're out till February 1st right now, Britt, is that right?
Yep, that's correct. So right now that is our first available go live, filling up quickly. But as Michael mentioned, that means we would produce your first owner statements for you in March for February's activity.
As far as VR platform goes, we actually have two different options. You can actually go out to our website, VR platform .app, and there's a pricing page. See if of course I didn't type it in right. Britt, do you have that link? I've got it somewhere. But basically you can sign up for free. There's like a 14-day trial before you even start getting billed. You can follow our onboarding checklist and try it out, see what you think about it. We also have a more hands-on approach for onboarding where we will charge a small fee, but the lead time on onboarding, if you're just interested in the software, obviously is almost nothing, because everything's out there. You can set up all your automations, configure QuickBooks, build your commissions, all that stuff, set up your owner statements. It's all out there. So Jerry is asking about, I have 4 properties that are managed at the moment. Is there a minimum for this service based on the prices I see on VR platform? Typically the minimum is 10 for software subscription, which is basically $125 a month. Thanks, Matt. Happy holidays to you too. Do I have any bank recommendations that trust accounting easier? It really doesn't depend on the bank. As long as your bank can connect to your accounting system, I think that's the most critical piece. No matter what bank you're using, you're going to have to capture your expenses and tell what the purpose of them is and which listing they're for. So that would be my biggest suggestion, is just making sure they connect with your accounting system.
Awesome. I think you nailed all those, Michael. I'm not seeing any others here. That was quite the question list. If anyone else has any last minute questions, feel free to toss them in the questions tab. Otherwise, we'll give everyone 7 or 8 minutes back here today. But Britt, Michael, is anything else popping to mind on your end while we see if anyone else has any final questions here?
This is that page I was talking about. I just misspelled something, so I'll put a link to it. Is there a way I can post a link out here, guys?
Let's see here. Not necessarily in the, what we can do, Michael, is if you want to give us that link, I'll be sending a follow-up to everyone who's on this webinar via email. So we can include the link right in that email for them.
All right, cool.
And
I think I just posted it, but yeah, I'll send it to you as well.
Awesome.
Before we wrap up, Michael, did you want to bring up the year-end checklist?
Oh yeah, thanks. So just a couple things. I got a little sidetracked there, but thanks for reminding me. So year-end checklist. So if you're sitting here going, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know if my books are in a bad state or not. If you're not sure, the answer is you probably want to get some help sooner rather than later. But this kind of mirrors our month end process each month. But the first and foremost thing you want to find out is, are my bank accounts and credit cards reconciled? If the answer is yes, you've reconciled to the statement. That's your inflows for your accounting system. So by capturing everything, even if you're not sure that it's correct, you're at least making sure that everything's there that should be there. Okay. Booking revenue, is it all there? So a lot of people go through, review their owner statements, issue owner payouts. They're not checking to make sure all their bookings are there. So you want to make sure that every booking that happens in your property management system ends up on your owner statement. You want to make sure that your owner statements are accurate from a revenue standpoint. I would say the biggest thing that people miss are things like resolutions and cancellations, because they come through the bank deposit. If you're not reconciling your bank activity, you're not going to pick those things up. So, most people can look and go, oh yeah, I've got the stays. They're coming from the property management system, and I'm looking at an owner statement in the property management system, so it's right, and that's pretty straightforward. But whether you're doing manual owner statements, issuing them out of Google Sheets and stuff like that, you just want to make sure all the revenue's there. I talked about cancellations and resolutions. That's a big part of making sure your revenue's right. And typically that's going to kind of be in tandem with 1 and 2. Taxes, have the necessary returns been filed? If you are not sure what returns you should be filing based on the jurisdiction that you're operating in, seek help sooner rather than later. I'd say the biggest thing that people don't realize is that, this is not that complicated. It's just knowing what to do and what forms to submit. And it's a lot of that kind of digging work on the front end that can be challenging. We partner with Avalara for sales tax compliance, My Lodge Tax, and they're great at just, you send them your property address, you send them ownership information. They'll tell you everything that all the jurisdictions you've got to file for, with few exceptions, and then you just report your numbers and they pay it for you and deduct it out of your account. Commissions, pretty straightforward. I mean, I think most people are looking at commissions because the owners are looking at commissions. But last thing you want is to send an owner a statement and have your commission be wrong, right? Recurring monthly owner charges, if you have a checklist or a log, if you're doing this in some way, it's important that these all get on their statements each month. It's also important that you get the revenue each month. If you're charging your owners a fee and you're not somehow making sure that those dollars are ending up in your operating account, there's no point in charging the fee, right? So that's really key too. Property management expenses, as I said before, I think this is the biggest bog down for most people, is coding all their expenses. And all of these things 1 through 8 ultimately end up answering the question, is my trust adequately funded? And if you don't know the answer to that, that just can kind of eat away at you at the back of your mind. And it's really important to know that my trust has the money that it should have in it, because if those DOR people come knocking at your door, you want to make sure that you can sleep at night. And so that's kind of the checklist to make sure that things are in a good place. And if you have questions about any of this stuff, you feel free to reach out to us afterwards. We're happy to help advise or point you in the right direction. There's a few more questions that came in here, guys. I don't know if okay, that's stuff that you're posting. Great. All right. Thank you, Coulter and Marcos, for your help and for hosting us today. And again, if there's anything else that comes up, feel free to reach out and let us know. Here's our contact info and our website.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both so much. And we'll include the contact info here for Britt and for Michael in our follow-up email. Don't hesitate to reach out to them. If we can do anything for any of you at Hostfully, feel free to reach out to us. Marcos, my colleague, posted a link to our website citing our integration specifically with Ximplifi. So feel free to check that out. And then again, we got a link at the bottom of the questions tab if you want to check out our industry report that was just populated for 2023. But otherwise, we'll let y'all go. Michael, Britt, great job. This is super helpful for all of us internally as well. So really appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.